What's going on, guys? It's Jay Mass and I'm back again with another dope adventure. And for today's video, we are truly out here in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. I'm actually in a town called Austin, Pennsylvania right now. It's a small town in a very rural and remote section of Pennsylvania. I'd say we're about several miles away from Allegheny National Forest. It's a very beautiful area, lots of gorgeous scenery. And I was actually out here in Pennsylvania for the weekend. I'm currently on my way home right now. And there was a site I really wanted to check out on the way home and film for you guys. There is just one problem, and why don't I show you really quick. It's pretty rainy out. In fact, it's pouring rain today. That being said, because we are in such a rural part of Pennsylvania, a part that I really never get to, I still wanted to film nonetheless. Normally, I don't film videos in really severe rain like this. I'm a little bit more of a perfectionist when it comes to the weather and filming, but seriously, when do I ever get out here to Austin, Pennsylvania? It'll probably be years until I get back out here. So since I'm here today, I want to film it nonetheless, so I hope you can forgive me for the footage being very rainy. That being said, such a cool site in store for today. I'm really excited to show you guys. We're going to be checking out the ruins of a dam. This is actually a dam that failed well over a century ago. It's known as the Austin Dam. It was actually built in 1909, but it only lasted 2 years before it failed on September 30th, 1911. Now we'll get into all the history and such, but I do want to show you, I'm actually standing in this little pavilion directly behind it. Those are the ruins of the Austin Dam right over there. So why don't you guys join me today? We're going to be checking out the ruins and remnants and, of course, detailing the history of the Austin Dam here in Austin, Pennsylvania. A failed dam that really only lasted 2 years. But let's check it out and see what's going on. The story of the Austin Dam begins with the Bayless Pulp and Paper Mill, the largest industrial mill within the small town of Austin in Potter County, Pennsylvania. Founded by industrialist George C. Bayless in 1900, the Bayless Pulp and Paper Mill harnessed water energy from Freeman Run, a local stream surging through the valley the mill was in. However, the energy sourced from Freeman Run was not always sufficient for the company's high paper production, especially during hotter, drier seasons. Thus, by 1909, it was decided that a dam would be constructed roughly 1 mile north of the mill to better harness Freeman Run's hydropower. This new dam, which was constructed by the T. Chalky Haddon firm, would replace an insufficient earthen dam that stood on the site. That same year, in 1909, the new dam was officially constructed. It was a concrete gravity dam, meaning that the dam used its material weight and strong foundation to hold back water. Then known as the Bayless Dam, or the Bayless Pulp and Paper Company Dam, it stood at 50 feet, or 15 meters tall, and 540 feet, or 160 meters across. Ironically, many local residents of Austin would refer to it as the dam that could not break, which is some pretty dark foreshadowing. Now, the Austin Dam was immediately plagued by many issues, both during and after its construction. To save money, George Bayless would often ignore or outright reject safety recommendations from the construction firm, including an underground slab which would have prevented water leakage under the dam's foundation. Furthermore, the dam, which was intended to be 30 feet thick, only ended up being 20 feet thick. It's also worth noting that the state of Pennsylvania itself had no regulations or requirements on dam building, so the construction process was not properly inspected. It ultimately cost $86,000 to build, which is over $3 million in 2025. After the dam had been built, water was already discovered to be leaking underneath, a problem which could have been avoided during construction. The dam was also leaning by 36 feet, or 11 meters, due to its struggle at maintaining the intense water pressure it was holding back. To alleviate pressure, dynamite was used to blast a space for water containment, but this only worsened the concrete stability. Nonetheless, despite these impending issues and the dam's structural corruption, many of Austin's residents praised the dam, viewing it favorably as a symbol of the town's growing economy and industrial prowess. By 1911, shortly before the Austin Dam failed, the town had a population of nearly 3,000 people. It was just 2 years after construction, on September 30th, 1911, when the dam would sadly meet its inevitable fate. The disaster was preceded by a week of constant severe rain, resulting in higher than usual water levels. With the intense water pressure pushing against the already structurally weak dam, it finally gave in and failed, breaking in several large chunks. This resulted in 400 gallons of water immediately being released, violently barreling south down the valley towards the Bayless Pulp and Paper Mill and the town of Austin, destroying both. This tragedy would sadly result in 78 confirmed deaths and over $10 million in property damage, including the destruction of many businesses and homes. To this day, the Austin Dam disaster is considered to be the second worst dam disaster in Pennsylvania history and the sixth worst dam disaster in U.S. history. Following this tragic failure, Pennsylvania passed legislation to better regulate all future dam construction within the state. The Bayless Pulp and Paper Mill was rebuilt, continuing on with paper production, and yet another dam was built to assist it. Sadly, both would not last long. The new dam failed in 1942, albeit far less drastically than the previous, and the paper mill was consumed and destroyed by a fire in 1944, leading to its permanent closure. Neither the dam nor the mill would be replaced or rebuilt following both of these tragedies, and the site was all but abandoned. In 1994, the Austin Dam Memorial Park Association was formed, founding what is today known as Austin Dam Memorial Park. This park is dedicated to preserving the ruins of Austin Dam, educating visitors on its tragic history, and honoring the 78 victims who sadly perished upon its failure. The park itself is absolutely gorgeous. All visitors are free to walk right up to the dam ruins themselves and to closely observe them. You can still see chunks of concrete scattered around, and the iron rebars still sticking out from the torn sections of the dam. Beside the ruins, Freeman Run gently streams past, a subtle reminder of its power. It's a scenic waterway with some pretty views. There is a massive open grassy area in front of the dam, perfect for picnics or play, although please note that climbing the dam ruins themselves is not allowed for both personal safety and to preserve the history. There are also a network of trails throughout the park, offering stunning views of the tree-covered valley and surrounding hills, with the dam often visible in the distance. Of course, there are picnic tables and benches scattered throughout, and a pavilion in the middle, detailing the dam's tragic history. Many old, historic photographs can be found here, showing what the dam and mill looked like before, during, and after the failure. Other historic signs, plaques, and exhibits can also be found here. Now, for this next part of the video, I'll be covering the abandoned ruins of the Bayless Pulp and Paper Mill, which is also completely open for the public to explore, just a mile south of the dam. To get there, you can either take a wooded trail or a gravel road, but do not make the mistake that I did. Unfortunately, I made a mistake and turned what should have been a 15-minute walk into a 30-minute shit show of navigating through thick, prickly brush. After following alongside Freeman Run into the woods, I found myself bushwhacking through dense foliage and vegetation, before giving up and bushwhacking my way over to the gravel road, which easily led me right to the ruins. If only I had done that at first, then I wouldn't be soaking wet and covered in dirt and thorns. Before we check out the abandoned ruins of the Bayless Pulp and Paper Mill, I want to give you an idea of what it looked like prior to its permanent destruction in 1944. Take a look at this historic photograph, showing what the mill looked like in its heyday. Keep this image in mind as we navigate through the mangled concrete ruins as they stand today, overtaken by nature. The very first set of ruins I stumbled across was this tall, looming tower. While I'm not entirely sure what the function of this tower was, it was nonetheless a fascinating relic of the paper mill's history to stumble upon, and it truly does dominate the heavily wooded landscape. The base of the tower is covered in graffiti, and the concrete is quite destroyed and damaged. It does appear that a ladder once gave visitors access to the top of the tower, although it appears that this ladder has since been damaged, which is probably for the best, as I can only imagine how dangerous the top of the tower is. There is also a small entryway into the bottom basement section of the tower, with some narrow steps that can get you up onto the first level. Directly next to the tower is another concrete structure, but in this case, it's a simple cubic building, again with no discernible function, although if I had to guess, it may have been a powerhouse of some sort. While much of the building's exterior was a ruined concrete shell, there is a small entrance that leads into the structure. As I made my way inside, I was greeted by even more colorful graffiti, as well as thick horizontal support beams keeping the deteriorating structure intact. It was a small and simple building, but still a cool find nonetheless. There were also quite a few old tires left behind, which truly is a staple for any abandoned location. Finally, I arrived at the paper mill's main building, which you can see has been the victim of significant deterioration and decay. The building is in rough shape, with concrete and brick breaking apart from every angle. From inside the mill, you can see an array of concrete columns holding up the top floor. Much like the previous structures, this building is completely covered in graffiti, with many signs of vandalism. You can also see charred remains from the 1944 fire that led to this paper mill's closure. However, what most struck me about this abandoned building was the sheer structural degradation on display. There are holes all over the floor that lead to a dark abyss in the basement below, and it only takes one careless misstep to fall several feet down. The ceiling above is equally as unstable, seemingly falling apart. It's a shock it hasn't fully caved in yet. For these reasons and more, I just want to point out how dangerous this site is, and although it's open to the public, I'd advise anyone who decides to visit to be extremely careful and avoid risking serious injury. I eventually stumbled upon the staircase, or at least, what's left of the staircase, that leads to the upper floor. After asking myself whether or not I wanted to risk my life over climbing these seriously sketchy stairs, I eventually gave in to temptation and began shuffling my way up them. The upper floor was also very much deteriorated, if not more so than the floor below. Significant damage was on display up here, and you can see the partial collapse of both the floor below and the ceiling above, with concrete and iron rebars sprawled out everywhere. It's wild to consider that this was once a key component of a prosperous paper mill which contributed to Austin's local economy, producing 70 tons worth of paper per day at its peak. Today, it's merely a hollow shell, serving as a window into the region's industrial past. From outside the window, I could see another large structure nearby, and I knew that I had to check that out next. The last structure I checked out appeared to be some sort of silo storage system, or at least a system of containers or tanks. Much like the previous building, this one also displayed serious structural damage and decay, with concrete chipping and breaking off all over the exterior walls. While I unfortunately don't know exactly what this specific part of the paper mill did, wandering through the narrow hallway and passing by several tank units truly had my mind wandering, thinking back to the early to mid 20th century when the Bayless Pulp and Paper Mill was operating. From the backside of the structure, you can get a much clearer view of the silos, completely tagged with graffiti and other vandalism. For the record, I'm not too crazy about all the graffiti at the site, but I guess I've just become numb to it after well over a decade of urban exploration. Anyways, this was the final stop on my exploration of the abandoned Bayless Pulp and Paper Mill ruins, and it was truly fascinating. A leftover piece of Austin's rich industrial history, and a callback to what led to the Austin Dam disaster in the first place.
Hey, thank you guys for joining me. I've been JMass as always, and this has been another dope adventure. And in today's video, we checked out the ruins and remnants of Austin Dam and the Bayless Pulp and Paper Mill, two abandoned remnants here in the town of Austin, Pennsylvania. You know, it's pretty sad to think about what happened with the Austin Dam. Although it was built in 1909, it failed just 2 years later on September 30th, 1911, after a massive flood wiped out the dam, broke it into several pieces, and unfortunately the flood crashed its way down, destroyed the pulp and paper mill, and much of the town of Austin, Pennsylvania, killing and injuring many. It's a very tragic story, but nonetheless fascinating to see the ruins and remnants that are left behind today. It's now a public park, Austin Dam Memorial Park, which you can come to and explore for free. It's a really cool site. Even the pulp and paper mill ruins I just checked out, those are open to the public. Although do not do what I did. What I'm actually doing right now, by the way, I'm walking on the road you're supposed to take to get to those mill ruins. Unfortunately, I took the much longer and more tedious way, which had me bushwhacking through really dense foliage. As you can see, I'm completely covered in dirt and soil now from my really stupid endeavor. So if you want to check out those ruins for yourself, make sure you take this road. Do not go the way that I went. That was my mistake. But nonetheless, absolutely fascinating site. If you're ever out here in rural Pennsylvania, maybe checking out the Allegheny National Forest, make sure to come to Austin, Pennsylvania, and check out Austin Dam and the Bayless Pulp and Paper Mill. But anyways, guys, my name's been Jay Mass as always. If you love urban exploration, checking out abandoned sites, traveling New England and beyond, and in this case, Pennsylvania, well, I'm always doing that on this channel, so feel free to subscribe to the channel. I do want to give a shout out to all my channel members. You can see them all right here. You guys are awesome. And I'd love it if you too, a viewer of this video, consider becoming a channel member as well. You'd be supporting me and the channel directly, and I truly appreciate it. Or you can follow me on Instagram at JMassOfficial. That's at JMassOfficial. But I've been JMass as always, heading back to my car right now, and I have about a 7.5-hour drive all the way back to my house in Massachusetts. And it's already 3:30 p.m. Long ride ahead of me, but it was absolutely worth it to check this place out. And I'll catch you guys later. See ya.